I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
Conversate with Us Radio presents the Man Listen Show. We are the blackest radio show on the internet. We bring you our opinion on topics that affect the Black community in an effort to enlighten, enrich, and empower every brother and sister that falls under the sound of our voice. We operate on a no-hating frequency, so be prepared for us to keep it 100% real and 100% Black all the time. Please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Man Listen Show. Click that bell icon on YouTube so you can be notified when we drop a new episode. You can go to our website, www.manlistenshow.com. Listen to our past episodes. Go to our Instagram, click the link in the bio. You can buy our merchandise. You can buy our books, buy everything, support the show. And just make sure you tell everybody about the blackest radio show on the internet, the Man Listen Show. I'm your host, Mark B. Let's bring the crew in. And shout out to C. So listen, regular sports is about to come back. C be mad at me if I said that, but we got the NFL for y'all that still watch the NFL regularly coming back, and probably not too long after that, the NBA for Lav, me and Erika, English Premier League is going. But we had the Olympics this summer, but mostly Black people don't really fool with baseball like they used to. I don't consider it. I mean, it's still a major sport, but for most Black people, since they effectively pushed us out, I know they're trying to get us back in. It's just not, it don't carry the same weight like it did when we were younger. But the WNBA, to my knowledge, man, or at least in my opinion, it has received more attention this summer than I've ever seen it receive. Like I can remember years where they'd be like, "Oh, the Las Vegas Aces won again," and I was like, "Damn, I forgot they was even playing." I didn't even know they had a playoffs. I'm just keeping it real, But this year, people have really been talking about it a lot, and it's because of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. I could say, I'm in social media and a lot of sports groups I'm in. Typically, the topic that is talked about ad nauseum is usually LeBron versus MJ and who's better, and cats pulling out statistics and trying to frame statistics to prove their argument. Now, that's been, sort of, I ain't gonna say replaced because cats still do it, but it's has some of its shine taken by people comparing Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, especially since they're both rookies and going for the Rookie of the Year award. But to me, it seems as if Angel still gets an inordinate amount of hate despite what she brings to the table for the league. Are y'all seeing the same things in terms of this, the exposure to the WNBA and then how people are viewing Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese?
I would say I definitely see that there's been an uptick in the coverage of it, the discussion of it. Welcome to the mainstream, basically, WNBA. These silly arguments and pulling stats to frame your narrative. That's something that's like you talk about LeBron and MJ or Joe Burrow against Josh Allen or whoever. That's something that's a lot of people have made their money with those exact type of conversations. And here, I'm not gonna say trickle down to WNBA, but the WNBA, because of those two, and I don't want to say exclusively, but pretty much exclusively because of those two players, the WNBA is getting the shine that it gets right now.
I mean that's real because as good as both of them are doing, Angel Wilson is balling.
Yeah,
like a monster on the court. And this isn't the first season that she's done that. This may I don't know her stats or whatever if this is her best season, but she's been dominating for a while, and they've been players who have been dominant like this for a while as well, and they've never received this much attention. Yeah. So I think the lion's share of the new attention definitely is Caitlin Clark. Because of the demographic that I believe that she pulls in, I'm going to circle back to that in a little bit later. But I also think that Angel Reese plays a part in that because there's a lot of us who are supportive of her, and she really made a name for herself. Really, both of these players really started to stand out when they played in that national championship when LSU won, and the whole way Angel handled it towards the end, and people taking sides and vilifying her, and trying to make it a good versus bad type of deal. And it seems as if Angel has never really been able to get out of that sort of bad guy shadow that some people have put on her. It seems like in order for Caitlin Clark to shine as the hero, Angel has to be the villain. And they may play on opposite teams, but they don't even play the same position. So like you could kind of see Magic versus Bird. And I remember I said when we talked about this when it first happened, when they played the national championship, I said, hey, I think y'all agree with me, but I said this has the potential to be like a Magic versus Bird thing to really um invigorate, I'm gonna say invigorate people and their enthusiasm for the WNBA. But at least with Magic and Bird, even though they didn't play the same position, they both were, front facing kind of shooters, or, it wasn't like a post player versus a guard like it is Angel and Caitlin. And people are still trying to make those comparisons in terms of how they impact the game. And it seems like Angel, in my opinion, at least from what I see, gets a lot more scrutiny and negativity than Caitlyn does.
I mean, I think that's always the case. Media loves making the black woman the villain because, for one, there's going to be a lot of support for it because you're always going to have, white women champion for fake feminism, i.e., only feminism that works in their favor. And then you always going to have those, other people, not necessarily black Republicans, see,
I'm,
but,
I'm gonna say I'm gonna say sellout black man. That's why I was saying in terms of
I'm
like
trying to say that
support.
without
I'm
that,
like, bro, like what is going on, man? And it's the same type of dude that was hating on Sha'Carri.
Yep,
It's the same type of dude that's probably running around saying Kamala isn't black, but you probably
Yep.
got some mixed kids that you raising or whatever. It's the same type of dudes, man. And it's really ridiculous.
it is. But I think that, like you said, and even mentioning Shakira, I think it's like this new generation of Black women athletes that have been really authentic that has attracted, a different type of audience. I can't necessarily say if they have, like necessarily new fans, but I think they're attracting new audiences that didn't necessarily support the league because maybe they didn't see representation of themselves in the league, or maybe they just hadn't seen a standout player that really attracted them to the league. Because for wagon sports fans like myself, I don't really care about teams or anything like that. I care about my favorite player. Whoever my favorite player is, that's who I want to support. That's what I'm going to watch. Like, I was a Kobe fan. So if Kobe had ever switched teams, then I guess I would have switched teams. But for me, I liked Kobe ever since him and Allen Iverson played in that finals, however many years ago we were at Mizzou. But so I think that having a player that you could really be like, a fan of and follow what they're doing, and then all these girls are doing all these things off the court and on the court, I think it's just changing the dynamic of the support that the WNBA is getting. And I think it's great, but I think that there's always going to be that element, like you said, of pitting one person against the other. And since they already have this history of good versus bad, it's easy for that to just perpetuate throughout the arguments, even if it really doesn't make any sense, because I mean they're both young women who are doing well in the league. Hi, I'm Marika Moore, and if you want to get all up in my business, you should check out my new book, Unsolicited Marriage Advice, where I provide an analysis of the best marriage advice that I've received over the past 16 years or so. So head on over to Amazon and buy it now.
Yeah. And I don't even really think, I mean, outside of just wanting to win and beat the person that's, across from you on the court, I don't even really think that they have like a real serious beef between them. I've seen pictures of them together from draft night or what have you. Um, I just it's clear that it's manufactured by the media, and people have eaten it up. And this isn't the first time that we've seen something like this. It just happens to be like less lethal, because you remember when the whole East Coast West Coast beef was being perpetuated by the media, and people were taking sides, and then eventually it ended up in people losing lives. This isn't to that extent, but I don't think that we would have. There would be so many people. It wouldn't be as polarized. Whether you like, I'm for Angel or I'm for Caitlyn, and we can't overlook the racial piece that's involved with it. And I feel bad for both of them, because you see Caitlyn's a baller. She's definitely a baller. But you have people trying to poke holes in her stats. And it's like, yeah, you score these points, you make assists, but how many turnovers you got? And so they're trying to downplay her that way. They look at Angel, and it's like, okay, you're leading the league in rebounds as a rookie, but how many is off of missed shots that you missed, offensive rebounds off of your own shots? Where Rebecca Lobo, I think it was Rebecca Lobo, came up and said, even if she wasn't this rebounding her own shot, which means because she's being contested defensively, she's working hard, even if it's her own shot, right? She still, I think, would be tied for first or leading the WNBA in rebounds. And I think it's unfortunate, because I don't think this will stop. And this type of media, we talked about how people get rich off this. Skip Bayless is one of them. I'm personally glad that he's off the air. He basically made his bones. Of course, he Lab mentioned he covered the Cowboys and everything back in the day. But this dude really got popular and made his money off of down in LeBron. And I think that's the catalyst for why people are all like trying to pick apart athletes, instead of just appreciating the greatness and the athleticism that we're able to see in the moment that we're able to see it.
Yes, Skip, and honestly, you got to throw Stephen A in there as well, because of what they did on their show.
Was that Undisputed?
First take.
No, First Take. And then, I mean, when he was on ESPN, now all day, that's all there is on ESPN and Fox FS1. It's just these debate shows back and forth, back and forth. It kind of popularized it, and
that's
like
what
I said,
sells. Like you
yeah,
look,
that's what I said.
I didn't mean to
That's what
cut
I
you
said.
off, but whenever we're arguing, like I said, if I'm talking
Yeah.
about Monique was right, people love it. But if we are somewhat on a consensus, even though we have different opinions, the show don't do as well. That's what people love.
Yeah, they do. They do. And
and it's bad, because I've had people like, well, y'all should kind of like, debate. You take different sides, even though you may not believe it or whatever. But to me, the way we talk is authentic. And there's times when mostly I disagree with y'all, and it's authentic, y'all. We're not going to just take a side just to entertain people. At least I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And no, you're good. And also, I guess taking outside of sports, that's just the nature of the society we live in today, is that people want to take sides. Either if you're not for me, then you're against me. There's no middle ground on pretty much mostly anything we do. And so it's, like I said earlier, welcome to mainstream media WNBA. That I think it's appalling to some, because this is the first time it's ever happened for the WNBA. And you talk about LeBron. I mean, it's been 20 years. Every single day where they down in LeBron, we just kind of, brush it aside like it's second nature now. We don't think twice about it.
That's right.
Yeah. Controversy sells.
So, I look at, even in politics, it's the same thing. I remember CNN anchor Bernard Shaw. He came back on TV. This guy, he was on CNN back when we were young. And a few years ago, he came on and he talked about how when he was on TV regularly, it was not his job to present his opinion. It was his job to present the news unbiased, truthfully, factfully a word. We're gonna make it a word. Truthfully and fact-based. let me try to fix it. And it's up to the the viewers to make their decision on what's right or what's wrong. And even in our political news coverage, now it's strictly pundits. It's strictly pundits giving their side, and they are, you could tell they are not just there to talk about the news independently. They are aligned with the different parties, and they're there, to try to promote or push that agenda. So it's just like you said, Lab. You said mainstream media, and you were right. You didn't say mainstream sports media, just mainstream media in general.
Yeah, and also, I mean, really, when you think about it, though, particularly when it comes to politics, and I guess sports as well, what's considered fact and what's not fact is all relative these days, because everybody has a nuanced view of certain things from their perspective, and they want to everybody to respect their perspectives.
Shout out to Trump. What did they say? Alternative facts.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, man.
And so we've I'm not going to say it's we've created, but we have made it to where people are allowed to live and believe certain things that they believe and want, and no pushback, because a lot of times you'll see them on CNN spewing blatant lies, and the host, doesn't even say anything about it, just lets them communicate this falseness all over the airwaves. And there are people that are just going to take it as, oh, he said it, it's fact.
Yeah.
That's why we got to have fact checkers every time we have a political conversation these days. Somebody come back and be like, and these are all the lies or the variations of the truth that were provided to you. So it's just like, it's hard to trust anything that you hear from the media anyway. But I mean, that's all most people do, is share their opinion without actually having a factual basis for it. They just say, you know what, this is how I feel inside.
I'll say
And
this: CNN, whenever there is like a campaign speech or a debate or an interview, they do post fact checking on their website. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't really. I don't think that really gets viewed. I don't think people really take it into consideration. But to your point, Lab, there's nobody that's like consistently challenging people and saying, no, 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 that's not the case. Me and Lab's frat brother Roland Martin, he does that consistently.
I was about to say Roland does it. Yeah.
Roland call him out in a minute. Whether you like Roland or not, and I understand he can be polarizing too. But the one thing I will say about him is that he does his research and he fact checks people right there on the spot. He doesn't allow them just to lie or to spin the truth.
you would think that would be a requirement.
But see, the thing about
Right.
that though is and this is why a lot of people don't. I would say this is why some people don't like Roland, and why people probably don't do that on mainstream news. It comes off as combative to some folks. And a lot of times I think they don't want to have that type of news coverage, even though, like we said, that sort of debate is, that back and forth debate, that's cool when we're talking about sports. But I think when it comes to politics, that forceful calling out or rejection, it's just not the same. But speaking of rejection, so when Caitlin came into the league, there was a lot of players. And it was clear, even though they may not have said it, they were resentful of how she was being pictured or painted as the person who was saving the league. And you saw a lot of the veteran players playing her, picking her up full court, playing hard, and maybe some hard fouls or what have you. Because they were resentful. It was like, man, we've been balling for years and nobody has cared. Nobody has cared. We were balling when we had to fly commercial.
Right.
Now
Layovers.
now she comes. Now we're flying. Now we're flying private, and they were resentful of that. And you could tell some of the older players were that way. Cheryl Swoops, she was in the news. She did Gilbert Arenas podcast, and she put out some stuff. We're speaking of fact checking. She put out some stuff that was factually incorrect, talking about how Caitlin broke the scoring record because she had an extra COVID year, which was incorrect or what have you, and then fell out with one of her friends, white woman. I think her last name is Lieberman. What's her last name? I forget.
Nancy Lieberman. Yeah.
Nancy Lieberman. Is she related to Joe Lieberman?
Nancy was a baller. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well,
yeah.
Well, Nancy tried to, hit her up and say, "Hey, look, what you said was incorrect." And I guess Cheryl didn't take too kindly to that. And they started, going back and forth talking about, they out of each other's lives. And it kind of, sometimes when you friends with somebody and they know you're dirt, like Cheryl was like, "I'm cool with you being in my life too," and him. And everybody was like, "What's she talking about, him or whatever?" But apparently Cheryl apologized to Caitlyn. Yeah, it was.
I thought she was talking about Stephen A.
She was
Smith.
talking about Stephen A. Yeah.
That's what you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
See, I was being messy.
Because Nancy, the one who aired it on Stephen A.'s show.
Yeah.
I knew that. I knew that,
Yeah.
but I wasn't sure who him was. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad y'all said that. I was being messy. But but is it do you understand where they're coming from, or you think they're being somewhat foul by being resentful of this girl from what she's being able to bring to the table? Because it's clear she is, because she is the complexion for the connection. Like I said, even though she's having a wonderful season, she ain't. It's Asia's been balling for years. They've had other people, Maya Moore, people that's been Candace Parker balling for years, and they haven't been able to do this. So I can see why they are resentful. But is it fair how they are handling it?
You talking about the other players? I don't.
The players, the older players.
Again, I think welcome to big time athletics. Back when Jordan came in, it was players that was resentful. And it came to his when he first made the All-Star game, they had a pact among All-Star players. We're not gonna pass him the ball. And
that's why him and Isaiah fell out, right? Because they froze him out.
Apparently, yeah. So it goes along with it. Now, whether are they right, are they justified? I think sometimes people want to have their work acknowledged. When someone comes along and they're doing the same work and they're being praised for doing the same work that you've been doing, and nobody's ever acknowledged your work, I think that does put some people in a position to feel resentful. And I'm not saying they're wrong about it. I mean, there's people not in athletics, but there are people in the job who you have a new person come in and your numbers still may be better than theirs, but they're getting heaped with all these, oh my goodness, he's such a great worker. He's doing all this stuff. And you're like, hey, I've been doing this, So I think it's understandable.
That's why I understand it, because I'm sorry to cut you off, Rika, but I've been in that situation. And typically that happens in industries where that good old boy system is put into place. And it's that we have to be twice as good and having the complexion for the connection. This happens to be in sports. It happens to be in sports where it should be a pure meritocracy. Yes, there's politics. Yes, there's favoritism, but typically in sports, your production dictates what you receive. And in this situation, that's not. And it goes back to that good old boy system. And I think that a lot of people, are upset with that. And I can't say that I cannot say that they are wrong.
I can. My thing is, you're not wrong for having the emotions, but you're wrong for taking it out on her. What did she do? All she did was came and did exactly what you did. Play her hardest and try to win games. Like it's not either one of their faults, her or Angel's fault, that they're getting this type of attention, whether good or bad, from the public. All they're doing is exactly what every other player has done. Go out there and try to shine and try to, win championships and create a legacy for themselves. So, especially as a grown-up, I can't imagine sitting back just hating on a child just for the fun of it. Like I can say, hey, what she's doing is amazing. However, it's also important to make sure we're highlighting people who have been doing these things all along. You're misusing your platform by turning it into something negative when you could have highlighted the people that are doing it. You could have highlighted the other people that you feel like deserve that attention or that, what do you say, the merit for what they've been doing this whole time. But instead, now you losing friends and falling out on social media and podcast wars and stuff. Like, for what though? Like, I mean, I just can't at this big old age see myself losing a friend over arguing over some children. I just can't see it. And like you said, they may know each other's dirt. There may be some other stuff involved in that. They may have really had a tenuous friendship at this point anyway, where they just say, hey, we used to be cool back in the day, and really we're not really a part of each other's lives anymore. So it's real easy to cut each other off. But I mean, and I guess because I have the benefit of not working really with other people, so I don't really necessarily have to do better than the people that I work with, because I just, work by myself. But I still think that I wouldn't be sitting around talking negatively about children, because if she was on there talking about my child, I'd have a problem with her. And I'm like, okay, she made a mistake, but make your apology just as loud. Why are you texting her on the side when you was on Gilbert Arenas podcast saying wrong facts? You losing friends and posting the text messages now to substantiate the fact that you cleared it up later. But you didn't clear it up later, because there are lots of other people who follow you and listen to what you're saying that, like you said, aren't going to fact check. They aren't going to follow this story down the yellow brick road to see how it got worked out. So no, she should have done the same thing she did when she spread that first information. She should have came back and corrected it in the same, maybe not on the same platform, but on her platform, so people could know that she was like, hey, I misspoke. I made a mistake. Here you are. Here's the correct information. Like she said, and I'm not one to agree with,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
but you should have just been like, hey,
Yeah, I misspoke.
turns out that wasn't right.
Right.
There you go. Let's move on. And now you got this whole big thing when it could have been so easily resolved. It just seems unnecessary to me.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where you loud and wrong, and then you don't want to admit that you're wrong when you really could have just said, "Hey, my bad. I misspoke. I had my facts mixed up. Apologize for the confusion that I created." And it's just really just that right there, because I guarantee you, there's so much more coverage about that girl and about Angel. People would have forgot about it. People would have forgot about it. But now you have made it so much more bigger by posting the screenshots and of a private conversation,
Exactly.
and then
Private.
just responding negatively to somebody saying, "Hey, look, I just try to put you to the side and say, hey," and honestly, I had to say, I appreciate those type of friends who can say, "Hey, yo," like, now if it's just that you disagreeing with me, because I've had that happen several times on this show. People be like, "Hey, I agree with Arika and Lab." I'm like, "Well, fuck you and Arika and Lab." If it's just, and I literally have said that. I literally have said that. But if it's like, "Hey, yo, you have said something that is factually incorrect," absolutely let me know so that I can clear that up. Because I don't want to just be like Trump and putting out lies,
Right.
willingly or unwillingly.
Yeah.
So, or knowingly or unknowingly. So yeah, I believe, I just think it's kind of a bad look for some of our, I don't want to call them elder, but some of
Veteran.
the older superstars, because
Seasoned. Yeah.
you got the veteran, yeah, but veteran, I mean retired. What's that? Retired superstars, because you got Cheryl doing this, and then Lisa Leslie talking about, hey, maybe there should be a co-MVP and
Co-rookie of the year.
co-rookie of the year.
Yeah, yeah.
You're right. And in some people's eyes, it's clearly Caitlin's because of her offensive efficiency in terms of scoring and assists. There are some people who are like, hey, listen, Angel has been setting records in terms of rebounding and the number of double doubles. So it's really how you look at how they have impacted the game. Now, from what I understand, Caitlin's squad, the Fever, they're on the precipice of making the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think the Sky will too, Chicago. But
so okay, but I'm saying if one makes the playoffs and the other doesn't, I kind of think that could be a tiebreaker right there. I don't know what the requirements are looked at in terms of saying, hey, this is the rookie of the year, but it depends on how you look at their impact on the game. You can say the double doubles are just as impactful as the assists and the points because they play different positions.
Yeah.
So you really can't compare them as apples to apples because there's no way to do that because they play different positions. But by Lisa saying maybe there should be a co-MVP, I don't know, man. I immediately went back to when Jill Biden was like, well, let's invite both teams to the White House. We all was like, no.
Right.
When have you ever done that? When have you
Right.
ever invited the loser to the White House, right? And we all was like, hell no. And I gotta admit, that kind of put me in that mindset. And I was like, nah, Lisa, we can't accept that.
Well, see, I took it the opposite way. I took it as that was her advocating for Angel because
Of
she
course it is,
knows.
but
what I'm saying is,
just say you want Angel to win it.
yeah, but I mean, there have been co-rookies of the year. I don't know in the WNBA, but I remember Grant Hill and Jason Kidd split it back in the NBA back in the day.
Okay.
But I mean, so it's not unprecedented, but I think, she wants Angel to win it, and
Lisa played center, so
yeah, exactly.
And Angel's a post player, so she probably has a little bit more of a soft spot for it too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't be mad if Angel got it. I'm sure a lot of these Negroes who are in love with Caitlin Clark would be butthurt to no extent if Angel won it, or if he was even a co rookie of the year. But I can't say that I would be upset if Caitlin won it outright.
No, I wouldn't. I mean,
yeah, because
that's why
our numbers are there.
Yeah, her numbers are there. Like you said, Angel Reese already. They still have games to go. She's already set the single season record for most rebounds in the season.
That being said, hold on. That being said, Marv has not got soft. I'm Angel Reese pro black woman all day, so I want Angel.
No. I get
I just want y'all to, but I got to keep it real though.
Exactly. You're looking at. Again, you're looking at the impact. I mean, you'd have to be, if you told me Caitlin didn't have an impact, then I couldn't take anything else you said about sports seriously. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
to me, it's like, what are the requirements? Because whatever they are, just go off of that. Like, whatever the normal standard is for reviewing who's rookie of the year, let's go with that. Because I don't want you handing it to me just because you're like, well, you guys both did good. No, I don't want that. And I also don't want you to be like, you know what I mean? Well, we're going to give it to you just because of anything that has something to do not with how they normally score the stats, because I don't want an asterisk by my name. I don't want people talking about, well, normally they don't do this. Well, typically, and that's why I never knew they did a co-rookie of the year before. And I would love to see
is it the media that votes for it though?
Yeah, that's what there's no standards though.
There's certain media.
No
there's certain media I'll say personalities or members of the media that they get a vote. Like, you, based on your time of covering whatever sport, you get a vote, and your vote, they tally up the votes, and that's who wins the award. So technically, if the numbers shake out, it could be a legitimate co-MVP. It's not like people are just saying, well, they in the back room, like, okay, let's give it to both of them to keep the peace. There could be some people that look at Angel's impact and it's the same as the amount of people that have Caitlin, but I actually don't like that, because I look at Major League Baseball, and I look at how the media, the power that the media has on their voting in terms of, like, for the Hall of Fame. Like Barry Bonds, like or love his personality. There was never in my time watching baseball, there was nobody who was more impactful, more efficient. I don't give a damn if you said he was on roids. It was never proven. But to me, my thing is, taking steroids doesn't improve your hand-eye coordination and your ability to hit the ball. And he was doing that for years.
Yeah.
And because of his quote unquote acerbic personality and how the media didn't like how he handled them, they are boxing him out because of the alleged steroid use. And the Hall of Fame without Barry Bonds is a joke, in my personal opinion.
No,
especially when you got I saw something yesterday where the current leader, Otani, is a Japanese lab or whatever.
Yeah.
Japanese
Korean,
dude,
Japanese.
He's having a monster season, and his monster season, Erika, would be Bond's 11th best.
Yeah, I thought it was. I saw 11th like
best season.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
11th best.
Yeah. Bonds is. I mean, it goes back to, like you said, that's yet another thing that kind of pushed a lot of black people away from baseball. It's like you said, the the old school media, the way they still try to wield power and guard the game, quote unquote, and it's nothing more than blatant racism from a lot of them. So
Yeah, and they never they didn't want us because like we used to dominate baseball, and when I say we dominated, there was a reason why they kept us separate for so many years. You saw then they brought in the Negro League stats.
yeah,
It immediately changed, you know, a lot of people's rankings and positions. So it was very systematic how they pushed us out. They replaced us with people that look like us, but aren't us, and don't have our history in this country. And what you have now, I mean, maybe it's just black people, but I've been to some Major League Baseball games and you don't see a whole lot of us. You just don't. I see a lot of Hispanics. I see a lot of white folks. I don't see a lot of brothers and sisters at the games. Where back in the day, hell, I remember watching baseball with my grandma and my dad and everybody watching the Royals play all
man.
the time. Cats play
First,
baseball and it's just
yeah. I
you
never
know
forget the first Major League Baseball game I ever went to was Cleveland Municipal Stadium. Man, it was the Indians back when they was Indians against the Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays, and it was like a lot of black people on both of them teams. You know what I mean? This was in the mid-'80s. You know, a lot of black folk on both them teams. But now, some teams you'd be hard pressed to find one American-born black player on the team.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know that I hope that both of these players can get past this type of polarizing approach or polarizing view of their contributions to the sport. I don't think it's fair to either one of them, in particular Angel, because I do feel like she's been vilified. And to your point, Arika, there's just a lot of people that don't like black women. And they don't like black women who live in their truth and who are authentic. When you had Sha'Carri, when Sha'Carri first came out, she had the crazy hair and the nails, and Angel is she wasn't to the extent of Sha'Carri, but Angel's real about her fashion and really being true to who she is. And there's just a lot of suckers, I'm just going to say it, that don't like that. Now, you may not necessarily find it attractive to you, but to look at how these women choose to present themselves and then denigrate them and try to undermine their accomplishments, I just think that's some sucker shit, and I can't go with that. Not from a black man, not from a black man trying to down a black woman. And these are black women. I mean, they're in their early 20s. They're kids to us, right? Because we got kids. Well, Rick and I got kids that age, but they're grown people.
I mean, it's not just the bad thing is it's not just black men. It be black women too, and then white men and women. The problem is that everybody feels comfortable talking negatively about black women. So there's never any real repercussions. We talked about that on the show a lot of times. There's really nobody who's gonna really we don't really band together and be like, well, let's not watch this show anymore because people like Stephen A. Smith that just consistently do stupid stuff, but his show still gets, you know, viewership.
I'm
And
gonna say this though. I remember when, to your point, when you said black women too, there was a lot of black women who were down in Sha'Carri. For years, I only watched ESPN if I had to, because if it's a playoff game or something to that effect. And the reason why I stopped fooling with ESPN was because I didn't like how they treated Jamel Hill. I was like, the way they pushed that black woman out, I can't support that network and how they did that. Only for Jamel Hill to then start talking crazy about black men on social media, and I was like, "Ain't this a blip?" But I still had held true, But here recently, I came back to, getting some of my news and my information from ESPN. But I deleted the app. I found another app to use, and I was like, "Nah, we're not gonna do that to our sister." And it just speaks to how we've always said we're stronger when we are together. And whenever it's just sad that any type of division could be thrown into any facet of our life. You know, politics, you know, whatever you feel about Kamala and her ancestry, where she's come from, where people come from, or whatever. Like, why are we caught up on that? At this point, we debating some foolishness. You know, oh, she's not black, she's not ADOS. No, she's not ADOS. But guess what? She's not Trump, and I definitely ain't voting for him. So I'm not finna just waste energy on that foolishness. So, like I said all the time for wrap up the show, look, we are much stronger when we are together. Our love is revolutionary, and that's why they want to keep us divided. So we're gonna keep pushing the message that, hey, listen, black men, we need to be there for black women. Black women, we need to be there for y'all. Need to be there for black men. And we're just gonna keep, you know, doing this until we get it right. So make sure you follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Man Listen Show. Click that bell icon on YouTube so you'll be notified of our shows. And we'll have you next time. Peace.